I'm Randy Cook from Alert Bay, British Columbia. Here to talk about some of my work that I'm getting ready for with a solo exhibition with Steinbrück Gallery down in Seattle, Washington. I guess to start about talking about the body of work and moving into the show with Steinbrück Gallery is I take on more of a contemporary feel. When me and Elizabeth sat to actually talk about doing a solo show and moving forward with new ideas and making things more fresh and kind of subtly pushing from what is considered traditional, that's what really grabbed me, because that's what I'm more about as an artist. I like to really push myself as an artist and explore different ideas, mediums, techniques, yeah, just styles and colors. I think for me, from where I'm from, in Alert Bay, British Columbia, is some of the artists that I've seen growing up were always pushing the boundaries. Traditional artists from the late 1800s, that some of the work that I've seen in museums to date that are way more contemporary than some of the things that I've seen from artists today. So I've always been intrigued by that. You know, like just recently there's a big exhibit in Vancouver by world-renowned artist Douglas Cranmer, and he was from Alert Bay, and he was one of my mentors, I guess you could say. I looked up at his work growing up, and he was doing stuff that was more imaginative, more exploration than anything of his time. So in the late 60s and 70s, he was taking form and pushing form further than anybody had ever pushed it, and he was overlapping colors and using colors and just having fun with it. And he made that in his statements very clear, that he was pushing himself to a point where he didn't want things to look like, you know, if he was doing a bird, he didn't want to look like a bird anymore. If it was a whale, he didn't want to look like a whale. And then it came full circle where after a while he stood back after he finished his works and it started to look like something again. So I think for me as an artist, we need to continually push ourselves, because how else is the art form supposed to evolve? So this show is something about that. It's me taking my traditional teachings, my culture, the songs, the history, the legends, all of that, and placing it in a place of today. So it gives me room to express myself for who I am today, this day and age, and not replicating something from the past. So I'm starting to think about, when I'm creating, I'm starting to think about the future, and I'm starting to think 100 years from now, when people of that time start to look back and they say, okay, in this period of time, this is what was happening. And my attitude is, if we keep replicating, how are they supposed to know? And it doesn't give any sort of credibility to the past either if we don't continually push. Because from the amount of pieces that I've studied in museums and looking at time frames, they were continuously pushing themselves very hard and exploring, like I say, the Numgeese, where I'm from. I mean, I've seen pieces in museums now that have like chests, carved chests with 10 colors in them, with pinks and purples, and you know, and this is collected 1905. And for me, I'm like, okay, that's exciting. That's what I like to see. And techniques that are a little more different, taking from European influence because of ships and colonialism, and you know, at the point of trade, when trade was at its highest peak because of Hudson's Bay Company with furs and so on, all these different styles that were moving. We're in the same day and age. I mean, with the internet and social media, all this kind of stuff, we're influenced every day. And I think, you know, it's important to stay strong to your roots. That's what makes you who you are. But we need to connect because this is what we're doing. So really that's what the show is about with Elizabeth Steinberg down at the Steinberg Gallery in Washington. It's just giving me a chance to kind of explore some new ideas. And more than anything, I think, I've been an artist for so long now that you have to always remember to have fun. I think no matter what, you need to have fun. And if you're not enjoying yourself, you have to kind of step back and ask yourself why you're doing what you're doing. For me, it's like, I'm an artist. I get to come to my studio every day and create artwork. I mean, how much better could it get? So I wanted to show them my work. So you'll see a lot of pieces for me as I progress in time. They're evolving and they're fun. Lots of color, lots of fun, lots of movement, lots of flowing. Nothing stagnant. Just having fun. In September 2010, me and a good friend of mine, Luke Marston, we called up this amazing repose teacher, artist. Anyway, we heard he was the best in the world, so we were kind of pondering. We needed to kind of do something new and fresh. So we went for lunch one day and we're sitting around having lunch, and we're like, okay, let's go international. We work with all these other artists and on and on. Let's do something different and more exciting. So we heard about this guy and we called him up at his house. It was like 10 at night, just out of the blue. And we're like, yeah, I want to come work with you. And he was like, well, who are you? And what do you guys want? And what is going on, kind of thing. So it was quite interesting. So anyway, Luke, he calls him back, and anyway, his name is Valentin Yakov. So Valentin calls me back at my house, like, can you send me some information about who you guys are and what this is all about? So I send him my website. Luke sends his website, and then Val gets back to us and says, well, I'm hosting a repose course in Tuscany, Italy. It's in 5 months from now. You guys are in. I'll save you spots if you guys want to do this. We're like, we're in. Okay, let's do this. So anyway, we're so excited. We're like, well, how are we going to go? Like, we don't have any money or anything. And we're just like, I don't know, big believers in the universe and the way things work. So when we put it out there, and we thought we would contact BC Arts Council, and they get back to us right away, and they're like, oh yeah, travel grants. Taken care of, done. We get 2 travel grants and we're off. Now, we're on our way to Italy. So at this time, I'm talking about doing this show with Steinberg Gallery. And I have it in the back of my mind that, okay, I'm going to Italy to do some repose in jewelry, which I will show in the show in Seattle at the Steinberg Gallery. But I wanted to try and incorporate something a little bit more. So as I sat in my studio and I was carving, thinking about it, I was like, maybe I'll bring a mask. I think I'll bring a mask that I can have some fun with, and I'll call it like the traveler's mask or something, and I'll wear it all over my journey, all over Italy, and take photographs and document it. So that was as far as the idea had gone. So I did it, and I did a really simple mask where I engraved a silver decal for the forehead, and I engraved on the back of it, and I placed it in the forehead, carved it, and inset it into the wood just perfectly. And the mask is all left natural. I didn't want it to have any designs or anything like that, but the decal is an eagle, and the eagle represents flight, and that's us flying over that way. And it has abalone in the eyes because I wanted the eyes to pop a lot, because for me in our culture, it's about a vision, and it's us having that vision and flying to Italy and making it real. So the whole mask, in its subtle kind of way, is symbolic of that, and it has really nice light hair. But anyway, I just kind of painted the lips and highlight painted it, but left it all natural because it wasn't really connected to anything more than the journey itself. And it was, and the face I didn't finish it with oil or anything. I wanted the fingerprints all over it. I wanted the dirt from the journey. I wanted, I had it one day when we got there. I'm wearing the mask like in the airport, on the plane, off the plane, in the taxi. We're photographing all over the place. And anyway, you know, we get to the Coliseum and I have it in my hand and we move, and I think I dinged it on the Coliseum on the rock, and I was like, okay, that's adding value to the whole thing. I'm like, this is exciting because it's all part of the journey. And that's what I wanted for the mask. And we were all over like restaurants, eating, drinking wine, and you know, just kind of photographing and having fun with it. And then the next morning we got up and we ended up going to the Vatican. We didn't want to miss it, so we're cruising through, and the mask, you know, fit perfectly into my camera bag, and I had a small camera bag. So going into the Vatican, it's quite interesting because me and Luke are going in, and it's like jumping a plane and going into the US. I mean, you got to go through security, they scan your bags, they scan you. Luke's bag was too big, so he had to check it with everything he had, and my bag was small enough where I got to keep it with my camera, which was great. So we're cruising around the Vatican, and you know, I'm in awe. I mean, I'm looking at the craftsmanship and the history and the religion, and people that have come like for miles and miles, where this may be a trip of a lifetime of them, you know, for their opportunity to connect with their God. And I was feeling that. I sensed that all over, and it was amazing. And you know, I'm walking around the place just speechless. You know, I'm touching some of the sculptures and everything, and the cold from the marble, and just, you know, the breathing the air and that smell that's in there, like just everything about it, that is, you're in it. And for me, it was unreal. So there's this one moment where, you know, there's this ray of light that's kind of shining through this window, and it's in the center of the floor in the church. And Luke goes, okay, go off in the distance and take a picture of me. So I go and I do this, and he puts his hands out, puts his head up like he's praying, and in seconds, security guards are surrounding him, and they're yelling at us in Italian, and we don't understand them, and they're, you know, almost ready to kick us out. They think we're mocking the church. We had to plead with them that we weren't mocking the church, that we were praying. Finally, they calmed down, they let us go. Now that's in the back of my mind, like, oh, Jesus, like, you know, they're pretty intense in here. And it's quiet. Nobody's talking at all. Like, they're going there to pray. Some people are on their knees, and they're having their own moment. They're kissing the floor. They're kissing columns. They're touching everything. Everybody's whispering to each other. So here we are, you know, like just two guys from, you know, Vancouver Island that are over there in awe. And in this split second, Luke goes, hey, don't you have your mask? I was like, yeah, it's in my bag. He's like, put it on. I was like, new. And he's like, yeah, dude, look where we are. Put your mask on. And I'm like, after the security and how intense that was, I'm like, so anyway, there's a lot of stuff going through my mind instantly. I'm like, oh, right away I'm thinking, okay, we're in the Catholic Church, and I'm thinking about what Catholicism had done to our native people across Canada with residential schools and, you know, like you name it, on, and then the wiping out of our culture and the banning of our culture, and that we were forced to burn masks, and our people went to jail and for practicing culture, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's all going through my mind, and I'm thinking, if I pull my mask out right now and put it on, they might confiscate it with all my footage from my whole documentation of the journey so far, and it'll be gone. And then I was thinking, again. They'll take it again, like they did long time ago. And then I'm like, you know, anyway, I'm nervous. And then Luke is like, just do it, put it on. Who cares? So anyway, I'm like, screw it. So anyway, something had come over me where it was just like a hand had pushed down on me, and my nerves, everything were just suppressed. I was like just stone cold. And I grabbed my mask and I was like, you're right. And my face changed, and I looked at him, and I looked at the camera, and I began to just speak, and I was like, here I am in the Vatican Church with the first mask in history from our First Nations people, all the way over here in Italy, in the Vatican, standing strong and proud, showing that we're still alive, that our culture is still alive, that were still creating pieces, and that, you know, everything. And then I was getting energized, and I could feel my body, and I was just like, wow, like this is my state of mind where you know, I'm liberated. Like I'm feeling like just, it was just so amazing. So anyway, I'm holding the mask and I'm saying this long speech, and I put the mask on, and he's videoing me and he's walking around me. Now people are going by and they're like, oh, he has a mask, he has a mask. Like everybody's like whispering and everything. Now the crowd is starting to gather around and they're wondering what's going on. And we take these pictures and everything. And just in time, I take the mask off and it slides perfectly into my bag. I close my bag, I walk one way, Luke takes off the other way. And everybody's standing there, and security's looking around wondering what's going on, and nobody says anything except I hear one little lady that, he has a mask, and they're like saying, well, who has a mask? And by then it was already gone. It was like so amazing. So anyway, we leave the Vatican, and I'm like, whoa, like just this, you know, sigh of relief, like holy crap, that was so intense. Like I was like vibrating forever. And then just at that moment, Luke goes, okay, let's get my bag from storage because my mask is in there, and let's do it all over again. I was like, oh my God. So anyway, of course we did it. We had to take all my stuff out, put his mask in mine, and redo the whole thing where he got to put his mask on as well. So 2 masks in, you know, in the history of time that made it into the Vatican, and very strong statements from us that we are working hard still today as artists to keep creating these legends and this culture of ours, that, you know, working hard to keep it intact, that we'll still continue to be here another 1,000 years from now, and so on. So very important statement for sure that we had made. And one of the most amazing experiences of my life, for sure. And then from there, which is kind of interesting, we fly home from Italy. We're traveling all over the place. We finish our course and everything. And anyway, our instructor goes, he was so impressed with us, he goes, I'd like you guys to come study in New York next. And it was like a month away. So I get off the plane, the first thing I tell my wife is, yeah, I'm going to New York now. She's like, what? So anyway, the journey began from there, where I was like, well, I can't just not do this again. So I created another mask to take with me to New York. And I thought I'd have more fun with it now because it's New York. It's the center of the world for business and, you know, fashion and art and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to create something a little bit more different, a little bit more fun. And it made me think about my grandmother, and always used to talk about when her ancestors had paw latches and stuff, and when the first ships were coming in, they used to create little white masks with mustaches, and they're white man masks, and they had little top hats, and they'd do fancy dances and paw latches and have fun and mimic them. So she was saying we had always done that. We were always looking outside and recreating something to try and understand it better. So for me, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to create a Louis Vuitton mask, you know, and I painted it with gold and black, and I inlaid it with gold. And yeah, and I took it all over Italy, and I stood in Times Square and did the same thing, did the whole speech on camera, and took some photographs and on and on. And yeah, it's very exciting. So yeah, 2 masks that have traveled in the same year, and like I say, it's very, very significant for me because these masks document a time in my life, a very, very important time as well. Not only for me just as an artist, but I mean traveling and seeing the world and connecting on an artistic level and pushing myself to recreate and to rethink about the way we view the world even, and even the symbolism behind masks. The entire show with the Steinberg Gallery is about this. It's about this message. The show's called The Spirit Within, and I titled it that because for me it's like our culture is strong, and it's about mimicking or, you know, talking about ancestry and mythical creatures and birds, thunderbirds and all these kind of things and bringing them to life. But there's a spirit within that, and that's the spirit that is strong. That is the spirit that is why we're still here today, why we're still creating what we're creating, why we're still singing the songs we're singing, and our culture is all of that. It's because of that spirit within us that has always been there, that my ancestors had fought for. Even though they were going to jail and all of these horrible, horrific things that had happened with residential school and everything, it's that spirit within that kept them strong, that kept us where we're at. So it's a strong message for me in doing this show and pushing the boundaries of all of these pieces, because I'm showing that we can still have that spirit within us no matter how far we're pushing and creating. We don't have to replicate to keep things, for people to identify them. They need to identify who the artist is and where they're from and what they're creating. And if your culture is within you and you know who you are and where you're from, whatever you're creating is that. That's what it is for me. So there's a few pieces in the show that are strong reflections of that, like a woman torso sculptural figure. And you know, when I started creating the pieces, about a lot of different mixed emotions, because I wanted to liberate women for one, and it's just a torso with no head, and the mask is placed perfectly where the face would be. But as you walk around it, you see there is no head, and you can look through the holes, the mouth and the eyes as the light goes through, and it's just the mask. The spirit is invisible. The spirit is there because it's within. It's what the life is. Normally, from day to day in society, all we see are masks from everybody. We never really know what is within. And that is a whole thing that I want to connect with because of residential school again, and why I am the way I am today is a lot of the struggles that I had to personally overcome from what I had seen with my grandparents and family, my parents and so on. I wouldn't be who I am today without those struggles that they had gone through either. So it's me being able to tell my story for today. I don't want to tell stories from the past, because I'm not a part of that. I'm a part of today. I don't want to take fragments from the Indian Act and from books and, you know, text and on and try and kind of figure it out. It's like the only thing I have with me is this authentic feeling of creativity of who I am. And that's what the show is really about. So every piece is derived from that. So it's a fresh feeling, it's a fresh start, it's a fresh place. I'm finally free in my creativity to be doing the things I want to be doing and not getting credit for replicating. I'm an individual artist just doing what I love to do.